Good afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is Spencer Day. I am the president of the Brandon Chamber of Commerce. We are so excited to launch this new speaker series and to continue to engage with our members after such a beautiful, although short summer. So thank you all for being with us today for our first speaker session. Now, I'm not sure if you're able to tell from your computer there where we're broadcasting from today, but we are coming to you from the beautiful dome building of the Provincial Exhibitions here in Brandon. So thank you very much to the X for allowing us to use the facility. It really is a perfect venue to do events like this. We all know that it's been an incredibly challenging year for the events and entertainment world and the business community at large. But organizations like this, the Provincial Exhibition of Manitoba, need our support right now. Let me just put it this way. Imagine a Brandon without the Provincial Exhibition. It's a scary thought, right? Following an economic impact study from 2014, it was found that the Winter Fair alone brings in over $13 million to the local economy and generates over $2.2 million in taxes for the 3 levels of government. And again, those numbers are from 6 years ago. Reach out to Greg, the board chair, or Rhonda here in the office if you have anything you can do to help out the Provincial Exhibition right now. Some upcoming events to announce before we get started. We have our annual general meeting, that is September 22nd, which is next Tuesday. This one goes from 1 to 2 o'clock. It's open to all chamber members. You can register on the MIC. An RSVP is required to get your Zoom link. There's no cost. Just reach out to the office if you have any questions. First Friday Coffee is October 2nd from 9 to 10 a.m. I'm hoping that this one is a little more PG than the last one, as we do like to have some fun on there, but it is a great chance to introduce yourself to the network and learn some new things about the businesses in our community. Again, register on the MIC, no cost for this one as well. The 2020 Westman Human Resources Conference goes October 14th, 8:45 till noon. It's a half-day virtual concert. Keep an eye out for more details. This one's hosted by the Chamber and Economic Development Brandon. Part 2 of the speaker series, Inspire with Trish Felstead of the Bloombox, goes October 20th at 12 to 1 at the same time. Again, open to everyone, and registration is required to get the Zoom link. Now, before we get started, we do have some new members to welcome. I hope you're out there watching. We have Westman Aerial Services, John Badgley, Golf Brandon, Weed City Golf Course, Freshie, Light and Me, Affiliated Financial Equipment Leasing, Saber Latino, H Coffee, Lady of the Lake, Holiday Inn Express, You Build Steel Buildings, CoWorks Inc., and Jill Reese of Alliance Financial. All right, I'm going to kick off by thanking our speaker sponsor for the entire series. It's Westman Communications Business Solutions, and a huge thank you to WCG TV as well for making sure we are coming at you with a great feed for the rest of this series. And I do believe we have Courtney Baxter from Westman Communications who is going to jump on and give us a few words.
Awesome. Thanks, Spencer. Hey, everybody. My name is Courtney, as mentioned. I am the marketing manager at Westman Communications Group, coming to you live from my home office, as I'm sure many of you are doing the same. You may see a cat in the background. I'm sure everybody is very understanding these days that anything can happen on these live calls. So while it's always great seeing everyone in person, I do want to thank the Chamber for hosting the Digital Fall Speaker Series and for their innovation in continuing to support the business community during these times. This year, we were all thrown a curveball, as 2020 has been anything but normal. But what remains the same at Westman is our dedication to keeping people and businesses connected. Early in the pandemic, to help ease the hardships of 2020, we launched our 90-day connection pledge. This was our commitment to assist our members by acknowledging that we will not terminate services and would waive late fees that may have been incurred due to economic hardship resulting from the pandemic for 90 days. In addition to this, we increased the speeds of all of our internet packages by up to 20% to enhance the ability to work from home and ensure that our members could continue to enjoy streaming video. As a local cooperative, community support is important to us, and we understand that our communities need us more than ever right now. In March, we provided financial support to the Samaritan House, And since most charities and organizations who rely on events for funding could not host their usual fundraisers, Westman took a different approach to community support funding, which saw us donate $500 to one deserving charity in each of our 39 communities this summer. In addition to supporting our communities, we've also been focused on growth. In 2010, we began an initiative to connect, at the time, all 34 of our communities to our full suite of services, including high-speed internet. Last year, we officially achieved that milestone. And in the latter part of 2019, we started a new journey to build out our fiber network to underserved communities across Manitoba who may otherwise not have access to essential internet speeds. Communities we've connected so far include Inglis, Minto, Rapid City, Oak River, Haywood, St. Claude, and Elm Creek. We have plans to connect more Manitoba communities before the end of 2020. We are proud to be a local co-op that serves our members and employs over 150 people throughout Manitoba, and on behalf of Westman, thank you to the Chamber and everyone for your support, and I hope to see you all in person again soon.
All right, thank you so much, Courtney, and thanks again to Westman Communications for your ongoing support here at the Chamber. Today would also not be possible without Brandon First, who have so graciously sponsored the first speaker session, and they've made the long trip down from upstairs in the Dome building here. So we're gonna have a combination of Jennifer and Sarah come up from Brandon First to say a few words. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Jen Watson, Development Coordinator for Brandon First, and I'm joined today by our Westman Regional Sales Coordinator, Sarah Gerard. Welcome to everyone Zooming in today. While we're sad that we weren't able to be in person with everyone at the State of the City luncheon that we usually sponsor, we are thrilled to be here today supporting this new speaker series presented by the Brandon Chamber. This year has been one of growth and change at Brandon First. We added Sarah and Pam Reese in Winnipeg to our recruitment team, and we have been working hard to bring great events to Brandon for the future. Usually we use this presentation time to talk about the next big event that's coming to Brandon. We are working with some amazing groups for things for the future, but we do of course feel the need to address the fact that the event tourism industry has been hit extremely hard by COVID-19. Ours was the first industry to shut down and will be one of the last to reopen. So many businesses and organizations involved with putting on events were hit hard and fast and have had to quickly pivot their business to stay afloat. We are thinking about all of our stakeholder members in this new and challenging business climate.
We encourage you to show our local hoteliers, restaurants, and all the groups who put on our great events in Brandon some love. Have a staycation, eat in or take out from your favorite restaurant, and support the ongoing fundraisers of our event hosts. One organization near and dear to Brandon First that has been hit particularly hard, as Spencer had mentioned, is the Provincial Exhibition of Manitoba, having to cancel all other major events for 2020. The Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, Manitoba Summer Fair, and the Manitoba Ag X are all fundamental events to Brandon with huge economic impact for the city. They need your help right now to save the fairs. There are plenty of opportunities to support the Provincial X, including the ongoing fundraising yard sale, a GoFundMe page, online 50-50 raffle, historical tours of the Dome building, which we are filming from today, and the upcoming Fall Fest, which will include a pumpkin patch, hay rides, food vendors, and farmers markets, all adhering to public health guidelines. Together, we can save the fairs.
For now, large events are on hold, but Brandon First is ready to welcome them back once we can safely meet again. When events do return, they will be more important than ever. We will get to hear the buzz of a bustling trade show, the cheers at a Wheat Kings, Whiskey Jacks, Bobcat, ACC Cougar, or youth sport event, the acoustics of a live music performance, and the laughter of children at one of our many family-friendly events. We came into this year full of momentum, with a complete slate of events lined up, and we will get there again. In early 2020, the Canadian Sport Hosting Index listed the 2019 Tim Hortons Brier hosted in Brandon second amongst the national championships it ranks. We cannot wait to host an event of that scale again and safely showcase all that Brandon has to offer.
Summer 2021 has an exciting lineup of events. In July, we will welcome the 2020 World Clydesdale Show. Spectators can look forward to seeing approximately 500 world-class Clydesdales all under one roof. This is the first ever Clydesdale World Show to be held in Manitoba. In August, we will welcome the Softball Canada Under 14 Girls Championship to the Ashley Neufeld Softball Complex. The tournament will feature around 24 teams and 300 athletes. The host committee will soon be launching their sponsorship and fundraising campaign to raise funds for lights on One Diamond at the complex. Your support of the campaign will ensure we leave a legacy of more events of this caliber coming to Brandon. Any business, organization, or volunteer group that would like to discuss a future event in Brandon, we would love to hear from you, either by email, over the phone, via Zoom, or by appointment at our office. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing this great series of speakers. As part of the event today, we have a prize package up for grabs, which includes a Brandon Brings You Back brand hoodie. If you don't win today, but would like to snag one for yourself, they're available for purchase at the Riverbank Discovery Center. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Brandon, first for your ongoing support. It's nice to have you back again this year. On to our main event of the hour. We have a very special guest with us today. Born and raised in Brandon, Mayor Rick Krest was elected as the 32nd Mayor of Brandon back in 2014. Rick served 3 terms on City Council from 1995 to 2006 for the University Ward, with 8 of those years as Deputy Mayor. Rick's love of the city is evident as he has always been a community booster and volunteer, serving with countless boards, committees, and organizations in business, arts, and charitable endeavors. Prior to his election as mayor, Rick has had a strong professional background in management, private business, and community affairs. As a matter of fact, he is a member of the Brandon Chamber of Commerce in his own right, as he has been a local business owner for many years. And a particularly interesting fact is that Rick was actually the general manager of the Brandon Chamber of Commerce for 8 years back in the early 1980s. On a personal basis, Rick is most proud of his family. His wife, Karen, is extremely active in the community as well, and together they have 3 young adult children. Mayor Rick Krest is extremely engaged in all aspects of city business and in countless projects within our community. He is excited and optimistic about the future of what he calls the greatest little city in Canada. Please help me in welcoming His Worship, Mayor Rick Krest.
Well, thank you very much, Spencer. This is certainly an unusual setting and platform for all of us to work under, and I give the Chamber a great deal of kudos for just finding new ways to stay connected to their members, to have members continue to be engaged, and certainly it's extremely important to all of us that we have just found new ways of getting things done in these times. In this speaker series, the chamber staff, created a theme for each of the speaker events over the next 3 months. And today was called Leaders and Legends, and I was a little confused and bewildered about that, and if I was supposed to work that in. But I did have a bit of a chamber story, and as it's already been divulged, and it was in the paper the other day, that 40 years ago this month I had been selected as the general manager of the chamber at the age of 21, so certainly giving away my age, which again I'm not all that private about. So when I did leave the chamber in 1988, the chamber board decided to have a roast. As you know, the chamber never shies away from an opportunity for networking and special events. So we had a roast at my expense. And one of the past presidents of the chamber that was one of the roasters, Don Kill, said on an occasion like this, you would often refer to the subject as a legend in their own time. But Rick is a legend in his own mind. So that was, a humorous comment at my own expense. And so some of my friends latched onto that one and began calling me Legend, which became Ledge for short. And many of my friends still call me Ledge. So I thought that maybe the chamber were still aware of this old story. So today will not be like a regular State of the City address. Between myself and Carolyn at the chamber, it was determined that we would kind of hold that, full-blown State of the City address when we can gather together for a proper luncheon. So it'll be a bit of an update, and naturally there'll be a fair bit of involvement with the pandemic, but kind of woven through that will be, certainly some updates about the plight of our city. And then, of course, Spencer and I are going to have a good Q&A session that should help to answer some of the questions about certain things in the community. The city's role in the pandemic, and well, you've seen myself and our emergency manager, Mr. Brian Kays. He and I have hosted probably 3 or 4 dozen, maybe 50, 60 YouTube broadcasts to keep our community updated throughout, and we're told that people have found those useful. We do believe it's important to maintain accurate, credible information, so we've tried to be that conduit. So this is a health emergency. It's an economic emergency that's being, on the health side, led by the province of Manitoba. So we have taken our cues from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Brent Roussin, as everyone has now come to know Dr. Roussin, and I felt it important that the messaging that this was certainly a time that we really all needed to be on the same page. We all needed to be sort of pulling from the same end of the rope, and it would not be helpful to our citizens, businesses, and organizations alike to hear a lot of different mixed messaging. So we've been very deliberate about following Dr. Roussin's messaging, continuing to allow the province, who have the resources, have the expertise, have these highly trained professionals who are skilled at handling public health emergencies, continue to do so, along with locally here, Prairie Mountain Health. And we've had a significant connection to, not everybody was aware of this, but we have our own medical officer, actually more than one, here in Prairie Mountain Health that has also been, highly effective and highly engaged in leading the response here locally. And then other organizations such as Brandon School Division, for example, that's had a very significant role in the back to school program. So we've stayed in touch, and we tried to provide a conduit of that information. Certainly economic impacts would be, the biggest area of interest for the chamber. And certainly that came on very fast. The chamber was certainly central in setting the tone and keeping communicated to their members. And in fact, when I say setting the tone, I believe the chamber was practically the first organization to have to cancel an event. I believe it was either March 12th or 13th when the chamber annual gala was occurring, and it was that very day with the tables all set, the food practically ready. The chamber took a very big leadership role, in my opinion, by stepping up and canceling the event on the day of. And that had to be an incredibly difficult decision. And of course, we saw many other businesses and organizations follow suit. Organizations such as the Brandon Wheat Kings canceling the balance of their season. The Whiskey Jacks Ball Club that couldn't carry on, as we've certainly already heard, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, followed by the Provincial Exhibition, the Home Show, and the list goes on and on. So in my view, all of those, what were at the time sort of voluntary measures that were taken by these businesses and organizations, really helped to put an exclamation point on the predicament that society was in, and I think really helped to get individual citizens realizing how serious this was and how serious that we had to take this. As already indicated, we've had lots of our economy come back. Many businesses have been allowed to reopen, and I want to give unbelievable credit to the human resiliency, as I call it, and the innovation that has taken place on behalf of individuals and organizations and businesses far and wide, but focusing here locally on how businesses and organizations figured it out. You've seen it everywhere, the installation of the plexiglass shields, the markings on the floor, the one-ways in aisles, people doing counting of traffic at the door, all of the hand sanitizing, and now more recently the requirement for masks. All of these were certainly new ways of doing things. People have had to work at home, and we discovered all of these new technological platforms that have kind of grown up overnight. And well, we would prefer to be meeting in person. It's been fantastic to see, as we are doing today, that people have found other ways to be able to carry on while we're still in this pandemic. I would say our biggest torpedo in the water has already been highly acknowledged, especially by Brandon First, who has a front row seat in this, is our hospitality sector. Hotels, restaurants, any organization and venue that relies on large events. And of course, here in Brandon, we have many of them. They're a significant part of our economy, such as the Keystone Center, Western Manitoba Centennial Auditorium, significant hotels that have a convention space, and then all of these organizations that take place in them. Added to that, all of the charities that rely on special events, gala dinners, luncheons, walks, gatherings, sales, and so on and so forth that have had to have been canceled, postponed, or realigned. This will have a significant impact on both the economic and the social fabric of our community. On the upside, and again, I like to be a glass half full individual, we've seen some booms in portions of our economy. Once people have sort of figured out the lay of the land, I understand there's been significant uptick in home renovations. People are building decks and fences. They're redoing the kitchen or the bathroom. They're buying hot tubs. Outdoor activities, bicycles, RVs, camping, all of that really sort of took off. So there were a few silver linings in our economy, and I'm only just mentioning a small number of them, and that's certainly great to see. On balance, I would say those bright spots may not be making up for all of the difficult parts, and too early to tell what the overall impact will be on our economy. And let's not forget all of those people who had to be laid off from their jobs. Many of them still laid off from their jobs, and are certainly, we are very mindful of that situation, that people had to navigate through that on a personal basis and are continuing to do so. Similarly, I want to just touch on social impacts, even harder to quantify. The impacts of isolation, leading to loneliness and depression and anxiety, likely hitting older citizens harder than some others. This has been a very difficult time for lots of sectors of our society in that regard. We've seen an uptick in mental health issues, addiction issues, and we must not forget about those less fortunate situations in our community and in our society. I'm very mindful of seniors that are in senior residence that, when lockdowns occurred and highly curtailed the visitations that could happen. Those are very difficult on both the residents and their families. People have figured out ways of working around that the best they can, but it's certainly been a difficult time. So now more than ever, we need to be able to connect with one another and to do our best to help out each other. And again, especially those that are less fortunate and more vulnerable in our communities. At the city, we were no different than any other business and corporation, that we had to find new ways of doing things. Many of the things that the city does, of course, are de facto essential services, such as water treatment, sewage treatment, police, fire and paramedics, E911. Most of city operations had to continue no matter what. We had to find new ways, and our team was spectacular in finding new ways of being able to continue to serve our citizens the best we can. Our Emergency Operations Center, which I have the privilege of sitting in on practically daily, opened on March the 12th, and it has never been deactivated. We've had minor periods of hiatus that got filled in by other emergencies, such as our major rainstorm and high water threat at the end of June, cranked up our emergency operations once again. And then, of course, the uptick in COVID cases in Prairie Mountain Health and in Brandon in particular really reactivated our EOC. Again, at the beginning of the pandemic, we said this was going to be more of a marathon than a sprint. So I had added up that last Thursday, our EOC had been active for 26 straight weeks. And I quipped, if weeks were miles, well, then the EOC had just completed its first marathon, but sadly we didn't yet have a finish line in sight. So I am very proud of our city team for carrying on, but I'm even prouder of our entire community. We've had a few hiccups along the way, and it's now being really described as living with the pandemic. And what that means to me is that we have risks in our lives and always have had and always will. And human beings have learned how to manage and mitigate risks and therefore to be able to live with them. We like to drive cars, for example. There are risks to driving cars, and we've tried to minimize those risks by we all drive on the appropriate side of the road. We have stop signs and traffic lights. We have speed limits. And if everybody basically follows the rules, we minimize the risks. We don't eliminate the risks, such as it is, in my opinion, with COVID-19. The risk will continue for each individual, will continue for the business community and all organizations, and we've had to find a way to minimize those risks and work within those risks to manage them. So far, our community has been stellar, and I want to congratulate everyone for what they've done, how seriously everyone has taken it, and organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce for leading the way, and I mean they truly showed leadership where it really hurts and really counts for this organization. Their probably largest event and probably largest fundraiser that they canceled on the day of. And to me, there were few gestures of taking this pandemic as seriously as that what the Chamber did. So thank you very much for tuning in, and to all of the Chamber members out there who are on the event today. Thank you for continuing to be innovative and sort of hanging in there, finding new ways to conduct your businesses and organizations, and just kind of keeping things alive. I greatly look forward to the questions that we're about to discuss, and thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that, Rick. It's great to have you here today. And as Rick had mentioned, we had refrained from calling this the State of the City today. We were going to save that until we could all get back together in the same room. So we've got a little bit different of a format today. It's going to be the fun part of the hour. And how it's going to work is we're not going to be taking in any live questions from the audience today, but we did give the membership a chance to send off some questions earlier this week so that we can talk about some of those today live with Rick. Hopefully we can get through all the topics. I know time seems to go by real quick, so we're just going to jump into it. Right off the top, let's talk about downtown. We know that downtown is seen as a major priority for economic development for the city, with the continued support of the Downtown Development Corporation and other things. But the past 6 months, the pandemic has proved to show us some new challenges that we've had downtown, and some of them have been a little bit more amplified. We've had numerous businesses close downtown. We've had some of our members tell us they're not going to be renewing their leases downtown. I'm just wondering what role you see the city in having downtown out of this pandemic.
Well, thanks for that, Spencer. And certainly it is a very significant consideration, and something I do spend a fair bit of time at, along with other councillors and downtown. We're very fortunate that we've got some tremendous individuals on that board who are very experienced and very visionary. So we're lucky to have them helping to lead downtown development. And unfortunately, in an area that was already a challenge and whatnot, certainly the pandemic may not have been kind to downtown in many respects. And we've always kind of found downtown to be a situation where we go 2 steps forward and then maybe 1 step back, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're constantly gaining on it. And probably this last year, some weeks we went 1 step forward and 2 steps back, which is certainly not the direction we want to have happen. There's been some challenges with respect to what I call sort of antisocial behavior down there, as a way of putting it, some of which was amplified by the pandemic. And full disclosure, and this is certainly not a secret, our Brandon Police Service, due to the pandemic, got thrust into a new circumstance and having to lodge all of their own prisoners, and therefore they had to deploy a certain quantity, like 12 to 16 police officers that had to man the cells at the police station, if you will, and that curtailed some of the normal activity. Normally, the chief would have been adding additional downtown patrols in the summer, and wasn't able to fully do that. Partway through the summer, as things seem to be heading in the wrong direction in terms of this antisocial behavior, the chief and his team were able to kind of redeploy some people and get some patrols back down there, and we've had some pretty good feedback from that. So this is not going to be a forever situation. We do see some great positive prospects for development downtown still on the horizon, and Brandon Downtown Development Corporation will continue to ride that. As you know, the city kind of unfailingly continues to fund that initiative, which has really levered a lot of significant private investment. So the investment by the city and by the taxpayers has levered additional downtown investment to a large degree. So to me, well worth, if you really want to look at return on investment of tax dollars, these have certainly been well worth it.
Just mentioning the BDCC one more time here before we move on. I know it seemed like it's always been a struggle for municipal and provincial funding to get down to the BDC. It seems like they have to claw at it every year to continue getting that funding. Is that going to be something that you guys are going to prioritize again going forward?
Well, at the municipal level, I don't think there's been any clawing. There's sort of a base funding of $250,000 a year that is almost pretty much automatically considered in the budget, and then they've asked for a top up each of the last number of years of an additional 50 that comes as a budget request, and hasn't really seemed to have a very rough ride in getting that approved. So at our level, it's been pretty smooth. The province has taken a little different point of view, where they're funding downtown matters on a project-by-project basis. So it's a little less defined, I might add, but the province has certainly been there with quite a few projects.
Can you give us an update on the search for a new city manager?
Well, that did slow down a little bit with the with COVID. So we're about to really start again. This will be led by the Personnel Committee. We've had a meeting or two now, and so that process will be ongoing. You know, we felt it was going to be certainly more difficult to have an earnest, proper approach while things were so uncertain. And now, as we've described, people are learning to live with the pandemic. You know, bearing in mind that our pool of people that you want to attract would be, you know, at least national. So we you know, wanted to be able to do that at a time that would be appropriate. But in the meantime, you know, people should fear not. We've had an acting city manager in Mr. Dean Hammond that has been, you know, in the chair, I think since, well, really it started in October on a acting basis, and you know, more firmly acting coming in February. So he and the administrative team are doing a great job of carrying on during what I might add is a trying time. It was nobody could foresee this coming, but I don't believe we're kind of missing a beat. And you know, as far as citizens are concerned, they should be well looked after.
No, absolute credit to your administration. It seems like you guys haven't missed a beat at all without having that position filled. Do you think senior management will struggle coming up to budget time just with the new challenges that the pandemic has brought forward as it relates to the budget?
So on the budget, maybe I'll broaden this to our full financial implications to the city of Brandon. So our emergency manager, Brian Case, has a term he uses in terms of managing emergencies, which he describes as get big fast. So in an emergency, you need to gather together and resources in a hurry, and it's easier to back off of stuff than it is to try and continue to add stuff in the middle of an emergency. So we sort of took the same approach in dealing with the pandemic, not only from the emergency standpoint, but in terms of what we had to do as a city to keep our financial house in order. As you know, it's not lawful for municipalities to have a deficit. The two senior levels of government are obviously allowed to do so, but municipalities are not. So the feet is to our fire, the fire is to our feet a lot more pronounced than other levels. And so we did make some fast moves. You know, it wasn't pleasant. We had to lay off a large contingent of casual staff, especially in the recreation areas, you know, where certainly gatherings were not permitted anyways. And so that helped us to, more than quite a few municipalities that I'm aware of, to help to get ahead of the financial predicament that we would be facing. And you know, we are now discovering that is going to help a great deal to not landing at a deficit by year end. And as a result, you know, I think this city, we're pretty proud of always trying to live within our means. So that theme will carry on into the 2021 budget. Every budget is difficult. There will be additional implications to the pandemic, you know, depending on how it carries forward, although we are certain that there'll be implications throughout 2021 of the pandemic as well. But I'm very confident that our administrative team, myself and council, will continue to highly respect taxpayers' money and do our very best to keep tax increases as low as possible, as we have done for the last 6 years or so.
I think you kind of just answered this, but is it too early to maybe gauge a 2021 tax increase? Is it too early to guess?
Yeah, a little too early, not because I want to be cagey, but we're, you know, the budget work is, you know, certainly started in earnest for sure. And there, as I indicated, they're all difficult, but it will be important. And it's my view, shared by many other councillors, that there will not be a time that it's more important for council and administration to keep the belt tight and to keep those tax increases as modest as we can, given the pressures that our taxpayers, both residential and commercial, are themselves under. So we need to do our part to keep increases as absolutely low as we can now more than ever.
That's a good answer. Let's talk infrastructure for a second. Does the city have any big projects planned? Or are we leveraging any provincial or national dollars here to help stimulate some jobs and the economy here? Any big projects on the go?
Yeah, so for 2020, we did try, and while keeping the belt tight, we also were mindful of trying to continue to do as much work as possible. And acting city manager supplied me some statistics. We've generated about $20 million in projects this year. So, a very, which is a lot of money, and we know is important to our economy, the people that are on the other end of that equation, the people that are supplying the goods and services and the infrastructure work and the like. So we tried to keep 2020 as whole as possible, and we'll continue to do so in 2021. We are very hopeful. The Investing in Canada Fund, which is a federal provincial economic infrastructure, essentially, program that the details have been worked on for quite a while, and I think that we're getting very close to seeing the finality of those details that hopefully will provide some good projects for Brandon. So we are waiting with bated breath from the two senior levels of government, but I'm quite optimistic, and I stay very close to that with the associated ministers, and I think that there'll be some good things on the horizon coming out of that.
This next question is actually, it's quite fitting just considering the building that we're currently sitting in, but obviously a lot of city supported facilities have been severely impacted by the pandemic. What are the city's plans for anything related to the Keystone, the Riverbank, the Provincial X, the Auditorium, the Sportsplex? Anything there for city support coming forward?
Yeah, so right off the bat, for each and every one of them, we did not withhold or claw back, whatever term you want to have, on any of the support or grants that we provided. Even when events didn't occur, such as the provincial exhibition events, grants that were typically provided to them flowed anyways. Similarly with the Keystone Center, in fact, we flowed the money sooner than normal to help with their cash flow. So we kept whole all of the things that we would have done anyways, whether or not the event occurred or whether the facility was in operation or not. So that was kind of number one. Number two is we are abundantly aware of the struggles of many organizations that you just mentioned, Spencer, and we will be in conversation with those with respect to the Keystone, which is obviously a big one that we're in partnership with the provincial government, provincial exhibition, which has a significant economic impact as well. We will be in conversations with the province of Manitoba. I've made connections with the ministers on that. They're also very abundantly aware of the struggles of these organizations, and they're certainly interested in trying to find solutions for that as well. So it's going to be, I won't kind of kid anybody, this is going to be a difficult situation because we have a lot of organizations, some that are very large and high profile and significant economic impact that, that everyone would want us to help. And obviously we're going to be doing everything that we can to keep everyone whole. But then so many smaller organizations, each of them in their own right are as important to the fabric of this community, that are also suffering at risk of, closing up and what have you. So we're going to have to be mindful to take into consideration. We want to keep our whole community whole, And, that will certainly be my posture. Some that have, the greatest impacts on our community, we're going to have to deal with first.
Briefly touched on this earlier, and I'd actually mentioned it as well. Just a beautiful summer that we've had, and of course we've had some amazing storms that have had some devastating flooding effects for businesses and residents all over the city. Can you take a minute to talk about overland flooding, storm sewer backup? Is there any projects planned there to upgrade any of that infrastructure, strategies there moving forward?
Yes.
Anything specific?
Yeah, so certainly drainage and these impacts have been on our radar for some time. And then those were certainly even more pronounced by what was likely a 1 in 1,000 year scenario on June 28th, the rain event that did occur, exceeded, sort of any design considerations. It tells us and reconfirms our attitude about climate change in the first place. And ourselves and most municipalities, provincial sectors, federal sector, we all know that there will be greater challenges on infrastructure moving forward as a result of climate change. It used to be called global warming, and people have figured out that's not the case, because in Manitoba people say global warming, well, bring it on. But the intense and extreme weather events that come as a result of this are not nearly as welcome as having a winter that's a few degrees warmer. So we've taken this into account. Just a few days ago, as a matter of fact, Council did have a meeting with our engineering and operations, emergency planning departments about this, as kind of a drainage master plan, if you will. There are many neighborhoods in our community that have suffered significant damages, and we are extremely mindful of that, and we are committed to finding ways, both in the short term and the long term, to mitigate those and get people sort of back to normal. We don't want citizens and businesses alike to have to be going out looking up at the sky and being fearful of every rain forecast. So every single councillor is completely committed to finding ways to mitigate these. And there'll be measures that we'll be rolling out. Some are going to be small, some are going to be very large and multi-years. Some will require some individual attention and responsibility by individual property owners, and I believe that combination of initiatives will help us to get us to where we need to be.
That was a long way from yes. No good answer. Let's talk economic development for a minute. I know you're quite familiar with the newly formed Rural Economic Development Corp that was born out of this provincial government's mandate. Obviously, things have been a little slow going with the pandemic. How do you see the City of Brandon, our Economic Development Office, working with this newly formed board organization, and any big economic development priorities for 2021?
Yeah, so obviously, that was welcome news. To me, it was welcome news that they would have a, rural economic development strategy in the first place, of which, rural economic development kind of includes everything outside of Winnipeg, pretty much. So Brandon's included in that. So that was the first good news, that they're going to have a strategy. And then the next piece of good news, and I think the Brandon Chamber of Commerce, did play a role in helping to land this, that they did announce that actual office was going to be located in the city of Brandon. We've got board members, at least one from Brandon that are on that board, so it's also good for us. So from the Brandon Economic Development Department, we would certainly be very much welcoming all of this and wanting to be working very closely with that new agency. On a broader basis, we've tried not to, certainly COVID has brought a lot of different challenges, kind of far and wide to every sector, including, the attraction of new economic development. But like everything else, they just had to find different ways of doing things. And so when we would, have site visits or have meetings with developers. Some of them have turned into virtual meetings. So the Economic Development Department, continues to, divide its time between industry attraction to helping local businesses grow their business. And it's an especially important feature. It's an important feature everywhere, but it's an more important feature here in the city of Brandon, because we've got a tremendously talented and resourceful business community in Brandon that I believe has a great potential to grow. And, business people who are out there, know that it's always easier to grow your existing customers than it is to get a new one. And, this really, holds true for economic development. It's going to be fruitful to growing businesses that are here. And so a lot will be focused on that. We will be looking at the potential of some new economic development incentive programs that are being considered. Quite a bit of work has been done on better defining our capabilities with respect to infrastructure and just land holdings in the industrial park area. So I think that will lead to greater opportunities for us to grow on the industrial part there. So it's a big topic, but I hope that gives you a few tidbits.
No, it does. Thank you very much. And it's going to seem like I'm jumping all over the map with these questions, but it does tie in. You'd mentioned the seat that the Brandon Chamber of Commerce got on the new Rural Economic Development Board, which we did fight very, very hard for. It's Jeff Hood that's sitting on that board. And I swear this next question came from Jeff Hood because transit was always a hot topic with him. But I know that we've heard, significant news out of the city of Winnipeg about the losses that might be posted by transit this year as a result of COVID. Can you give us an update on financial expectations for transit in the city here and how we're going to address any of those challenges going forward?
Yeah, so transit was another one that was a very big challenge. Recognizing that we needed to keep it going because a lot of the frontline workers, Maple Leaf Foods, many workers in the city of Brandon rely on transit. So the concept of just closing it down in the early days of the pandemic was not a realistic proposition. On the other hand, we needed to keep our drivers safe and the passengers safe, and it caused some difficulties. So we outright, even in the early stages, we're not collecting fares. We had no way of separating the passengers from the drivers when they would come on the front door of the bus and access the fare box. We had people entering by the rear doors and not coming to the fare box, so there was no charge for transit for, I forget, it was a month or 6 weeks until we could eventually retrofit the buses and put shields in to separate the drivers and passengers. So and then on top of that, a significant downturn in ridership. The people that needed to be out there needed the bus, but lots of people were staying home and the ridership was down significantly. So I think year to date, we're down about $335,000 in revenue. But by the same token, we were able to tighten the belt on expenses. I don't have what the net is, so we're not down completely $335,000. So in our big picture, though, in terms of we will not be landing on a deficit by year end, but the difficulties with transit are included in that, which may be made up for savings in other departments. So moving forward, we'll continue to have to recognize the new realities with respect to transit and budget accordingly.
I'm just going to check how we're doing for time here. I know everyone's time is valuable. We do have 3 minutes till 1 o'clock here, so maybe I will. I got a couple fun questions to end with, but we only have a couple of minutes. Are we going to expect you to run again in 2022? Is it too early to tell?
It's way too early to tell. We're just coming up on the midway point of our term. Like late October is kind of the halfway point, so only halfway through a term. My noses to the grindstone, as large as it is. You'd think that it'd be shorter by now.
Looks good from here.
Yeah, but my nose is to the grindstone and shoulder to the wheel, whatever term you want to use. And I think that could be said with every counselor. I believe in playing to the last whistle, as many coaches kicked my butt and taught me to do many years ago. And so that's really our focus right now, especially with the different hand that we've been dealt. We're just going to be playing that hand and not worrying about the next election quite yet. However, I'll put in a plug that it's not too early for people to start to think about running for council, both for the mayor's job and for councilor's job, and especially from a diversity standpoint. We would like to see more women running for council. We would like to see a greater diversity from all cultures and First Nations running for council. So I'm starting that plug now, and I'm going to be very forceful on that topic every day moving forward.
Oh, good for you. That's an absolutely great point to make. We would love to have you back again. I know you're doing a fantastic job yourself and your administration for the entire city, so we thank you for that. I was going to get you to give Barry Cooper some advice on his run if you weren't running next time. So any closing remarks before we let our viewers go?
Once again, thanks to the Chamber for doing this. And again, I really, and I get a little bit choked up about this. You just don't know from my seat, and being in the kind of the middle of all of it, how proud I am of this community and the resilience and the resourcefulness of every business, organization, and individual of just figuring out a new way. And I don't think everyone realizes what they've done here and how they've gone about this. And I see this from a little different point of view, but it means a lot to the safety and health and the future of our community that we stick together and we just continue to figure this out. So congratulations and thank you to each and every member of our community for doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, Mayor Crest. I hope we weren't too hard on you. And another big thank you to our sponsors, Westman Communications and Brandon First, of course. And a huge thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in today. I think we're exactly right on time, so we'll let everyone go and have a great afternoon, everybody.